Dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun,
Hi everyone.
dun.
So today we're going to be talking about why bows are so strong in Game of Thrones Winter is Coming, and it's pretty simple. So this is an update on the previous video in terms of how much stronger T5 are than T4. Thanks very much to the people who pointed out some discrepancies, and so this is an update on that video and some of the fundamentals around it. So why are bows better? Well, firstly, if you have a look at these base stats, and there's the attack of 125, the health of 74, which is low, and the defense of 52, but this attack is highest out of all of the troop types, and any percentage that you add into it, well, it's a percentage, but it's multiplied by that 125. So I've got a bow attack of 702%, and it's 702 times 125 equals 877. So any percentage you take, it's multiplied by this base. And for bows, this base is still the highest. So that's one of the reasons. It's these base values which are that much higher than the other troop types. The other one is your counters. As you can see over here, bows do not have a counter, and that is why there's no penalizing in the formula when you fight. So because there's no counter, you can fight against any troop type. And the last part is if you have to go to your research tower and you go to iron defense, you can research additional bow strength. So you can increase your bow attack by 135, you can increase your defense by 135%, and you can increase your bowman health by 135%. Important to note that no other troop types have this additional research attached to them. So even if you maxed out on all of the other troops and the research in that, bows will still be able to go extra 135%. And that's important because, as I showed you earlier, this 135% will be multiplied against the base value, which is already higher. So this just is really like the cherry on top of your cake as to why bows are stronger. So let's have a look at the actual math. Here, if we have a look at this, we can see we've got our attack. We know what attack is. Health is the health. Defense is your defense. And when you fight in, the formula in terms of your attack rate, and thanks Love Angel for this, it's really attack minus defense divided by health. Or another way to think about it is if your attack minus the defense is greater than your health, your troops die. So really, it's attack minus defense divided by health gives you your attack rate. So you can see attack is important, defense comes in there, and health comes in there. But when we have a look at all of the troop types, I mean, there for T4 bows, you can see it's 125 versus 115 for spear versus 105 for cav. Bows is consistently highest for all of the different tiers. Speed is also important, and this I didn't know, is that when you fight in, if you have a high speed, it means that the rate of attack is higher. So the chances are that your troops will be able to attack again is much higher for cavalry, for example, compared to bows. So that's where bows are a little bit handicapped, but it's not that much. If we can have a look here at the percentage increase from the previous tiers, you can see in terms of the dynamics of the games, they've really calculated spears and bows. They kind of treat those fairly similar, where it was first 105%, and then you're looking at around 67% between T2s and T3s, 67% between T3s and T4s, and then lastly at the very end, 20% of from T4 to T5, and that's the same for bows. For infantry and cavalry, it's a little bit different. They started off between T1 to T2 for infantry at 125%. For cavalry, it was 119. And then from T2 onwards, it was 67%, 67%, and then 34% for infantry between T4s and T5s, and cavalry was 30%. But again, this is an increase on these already higher base values for bows that we were getting. So not nerfed in terms of what people were thinking. So again, the three important things is your base stats, the added bonus that you can do. And remember, with bows, you can add 135 purely through research that other troop types don't have, and then the counter that I mentioned. So if we have to plot these on a graph, and here we've got the different troops, infantry, cav, spear, and bow, T1, T2, T3, T4, T5, and attacks are in blue, health is in orange, and defense is in gray. And you can see even where we're looking at T4s, the bows, again, a higher value across the board. Even when it comes to the T3s, the bows are a higher value across the board. And T5s, even although it was only a 20% increase between T4 and T5, the bows are still on top at 150 compared to your spears, compared to your cavalry, compared to your infantry. So the bows, because of those base stats being much higher, any percentage we add to it is going to be on top of this. Important to note again that your health for bows is lower, your defense for bows is lower, so that does come into effect when you fight. But for even infantry, cav, and spear, the health and the defenses are a little bit similar. But really, it's this attack. So in the game itself, in the mechanics of the game itself, they've already hyped up bows, and really, why isn't everybody playing bows? Unless they really go and change some of these base values, there's not going to be any difference at all. Where the countering comes in, and this is where none of us quite really know, whether the counter doubles the attack or whether it's the damage, the attack minus defense times your counter. So that's still up for debate. These models are all hypothetical, so please disclaimer. But nobody really knows what the formula is for fighting. But you can see that is where the counter comes in. And bows do not have a counter, so they're not penalized when they fight against other troop types.
How do you know this?
That's what I do. I drink and I know things.
Okay, so just how much stronger are T5s versus T4s? Well, let's go and have a look at cavalry. My lowest tier will be 24 T4s versus a T5s. And I'm going to assume I've got an 800% attack. Maybe that's a little bit low. Maybe let me assume I've got a 800% infantry attack and a 200% total attack, which gives me a total of 1,000. My T4s, so that's my T5s. My T4s would then need to have a attack of 1,340. Okay, important to note that if we go lower, so in this example, I would have, say, maybe 400 infantry attack, 100% total attack. And you can see I would then only need 670%. So the difference is lower. Important, the greater percentage you add to it, the greater percentage extra you would need if you were playing a lower tier. So that's infantry. That's a good example. That's showing me I would need an extra 340%. If we go for cavalry, I would need an extra 305%. If I go for spear, I would need an extra 209%. And if I go for bows, I would need an extra 200%. So already bows are coming through stronger. But important to note, remember I was talking about that extra 135 research that you can do for your bow attack. Really, that then would change this for a base value already. So you can see comparatively, I would now have an additional research attached to it, an extra 135%, and that then affects the difference and means I would need to have more percentage extra for my lower tiers because I now have a greater over here. If I'm looking at some of the guys, I mean, I've seen up until 1,200 bow attack, maybe 1,200 plus 600 total attack. So we're looking at 1,800 coming in over here. And here you can see then my bows, if I was fighting with a maxed account almost in the bows, I would need an additional 360. All my bows would need to have attack of 2,160, which I don't think you can get in the game. Okay, so this is actually a really nice formula to try and show when you've got the same troop type, compare your T4s versus your T5s, what is the extra you would need? And if we wanted to, we could go and have a look at the T3s. If I've got 1,800 attack on my T4s, my T3s would need a 3,000 attack in order to be the same, which isn't quite possible in the game. Okay, so countering is really, really interesting. I do not know exactly how that works, but it would be quite nice to play around with the formulas and see what comes out. But really, that is why bows in this game are supercharged. They're supercharged because these base stats over here are much higher. There is no counter. And again, if you go through and you have a look at the additional research that you can do in your iron defense, you're able to increase them by an extra 135 bow attack, defense, and health. Very important to note that if you are playing bows, please increase your defense and your health because they are lower than your other troop types. But really, in my mind, anything that's happening in terms of commanders, in terms of special skills, in terms of dragon skills, it's all happening on top of your base stats. And unless the game goes in and changes some of these base stats that we're seeing over here, the fundamental shift isn't going to happen in terms of making bows less powerful than how they already are. So I hope that helps you. If that means everybody now goes for bows, well, it makes sense. Yeah, can't argue with the math. Thanks very much. Bye.